Merry Christmas. I'll bet you haven't heard that much in the last few weeks, have you? Instead, it's the much more benign Happy Holidays. Think about it. That's what everybody says these days. Somehow here in 1998, it's become politically incorrect to wish people a Merry Christmas. Can you believe that? How do we allow this to happen? I said Merry Christmas to somebody over the weekend, and they pulled me aside and said, well, actually, Happy Holidays is better. I said, why? She said, well, we don't want people who don't celebrate Christmas to feel left out. Now, that's got to be one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard. What's next? We can't say happy birthday to somebody because it might make people whose birthday isn't that day feel bad? Please. We've sacrificed much to the altar of PC in this last decade, and I refuse to let Christmas be a casualty. Christmas is my favorite time of year, with the exception of the relatives thing, of course. Well, actually, even that's a good thing. It reminds us of the reason we don't see those cousins all the rest of the year. Take the PC out of the season. So you celebrate Hanukkah, or Ramadan, or Kwanzaa, or nothing at all, that's fine. Happy Hanukkah, happy Ramadan, happy Kwanzaa, happy nothing at all. Now, can I have my Merry Christmas back, please? I'm Brian Copeland.
Yes, you may. Merry Christmas, Brian.
That's right.
Here's Brian. This idea of making Oakland a no spanking zone is an interesting one. Next week, Jordan Riak of Danville will ask the Oakland City Council to make that declaration and begin placing signs around town stating that spanking teaches kids to be violent. There would be no criminal penalties involved if a parent did spank within the city limits. Not that it would deter a parent who wants to spank his kid anyway. They just drive the kids out of town to whack them. As soon as we get to Emeryville, your behind is mine. I guess there are good arguments on both sides of the spanking issue. Teaching kids to be violent is something that we definitely should avoid at all costs. On the other hand, not all kids who are spanked turn out that way. I used to get whipped with switches when I was a kid. My grandmama would go outside and pull up a redwood tree to correct me when I got out of line. It hurt, but I never repeated the offense again. Try that today, parents, and you will go to jail. I can't spank my kids. I just feel too guilty. I guess talking with your kid is always best, but the question remains, what do you do when... One of the things that gets under my skin the most is when I'm sitting down to dinner with my family and I get a phone call on my unlisted number from Bob calling to tell me about an exciting offer. I've got an exciting offer for you too, Bob. Don't call my house again and I won't hunt you down like a dog. Or how about picking up the phone and it's not even a human being irritating you, it's a recording. Please hold for an important announcement. No, if it were that important, there'd be a person on the line. Or worse still, how about the telemarketer who won't take no for an answer? I'm not interested. You will be as soon as I tell you about all the advantages to... No, leave me alone. You'll never be left alone again if you buy... What are you, a pit bull? Take the hint. No. Telemarketers are the bane of society. They're not only intrusive and annoying, but they defraud people, mainly seniors, out of an estimated $40 billion a year. It's for that reason that I don't understand why the state legislature won't pass a law allowing people to be put on a don't call list. If I don't want to be hassled by strangers in my own home, I should have that right. And so should you. I'm Brian Copeland. Hands of kids, right? So why are two New York state senators trying to stop legislation that would encourage, not require, encourage schools to adopt a program on gun safety? Okay, the program is sponsored by that group with a dirty name, NRA. But still, it doesn't sound bad to me. The program includes a cartoon character named Eddie Eagle who tells kids that if they see a gun, don't touch it, get an adult. Now, I'm no huge fan of the NRA, but what's the problem with that? And for the record, I don't own a gun, never have, never would, because I have small kids. That said, I've got to tell you that I think we may be going a bit overboard since Columbine. We have all of these groups complaining that guns are unsafe. Of course they're unsafe. That's why they're called guns. If they were supposed to be safe, they'd be called car seats. We're going overboard. I read a story last week about a high school girl who's being expelled for bringing nail clippers to class. They're considered a weapon, and the school has zero tolerance since Columbine. A weapon? What, are there wild gangs of manicurists terrorizing schools now? Oh, please, stop me before I clip again. What are we doing here? Whatever happened to common sense? I'm Brian Copeland.
Finally, here's looking at you, kid. Bogart did a heck of a lot better, didn't he? Last night...
Well, given that, how far should you be able to go to protect it from invaders? Case in point. Leonard Miller has a getaway cabin in Rice Lake, Wisconsin. Since it's a vacation property, it's vacant for long periods of time, and as a result, it's an easy target for burglaries, 4 in the last 2 years. Well, Miller had finally had enough and decided to take matters into his own hands. He MacGyvered some booby traps in the place. He rigged a string that ran from the front doorknob to a shotgun. In his shed, which is where he keeps an all-terrain vehicle, he rigged a steel beaver trap. Well, the trap worked when Arlen Zuch, a career burglar, jimmied the front door only to get 2 legs full of buckshot. Zuch was arrested and charged with a felony. Good, right? Well, here's the kicker. Miller was also charged with a felony. Law enforcement in the area say that the booby traps amounted to unreasonable force. Excuse me? I'm sorry, but if you break into somebody's house, you get what you get, and it ain't always going to be Grandma's silver. Charging Miller to me is like the burglar suing because he slipped on the kitchen floor while he was ripping you off. If he hadn't been committing the crime in the first place, he wouldn't have been hurt. All right, tell me, am I right or am I wrong on this one? Should the cabin owner have been charged for booby-trapping his property? Email me today at copey@crl.com, and we'll see what you had to say in a future corner. I'm Brian Copeland. The latest Kennedy tragedy. I'd like to say a few words about the coverage. Now, is it mean, or was the media simply engaged in a case of overkill? Emotions and visions of Camelot aside, John Kennedy Jr. was not a government official. He was not the President of the United States. He was a private citizen, granted from a world-famous family, but a private citizen nonetheless. A couple hundred private planes go down in this country every year, most of them we never hear about. What justified wall-to-wall coverage of this one for a week? Well, let me rephrase that. What justified redundant wall-to-wall coverage for a week? It was like, the Kennedy plane is down. Then 4 hours later, the Kennedy plane is still down. Well, thank you for that valuable piece of information. You had hundreds of reporters at the Kennedy compound in Hyannisport basically covering a group of white buildings. We've been here for 3 days and still no one has come out. Well, take the hint. Let these people grieve in peace. It was ridiculous. I mean, it's not like a washed-up ex-football player was